Good morning. Welcome to Boosting Small Business Productivity with AI. Today's program is part of the Multi-Chamber Small Business Digital Inclusion Series in partnership with Verizon. I'm Maya Curry, Vice President of Communications and Programming at the Newark Regional Business Partnership. We are a Chamber of Commerce based in Newark, representing over 300 businesses and organizations here in the city and throughout the greater region. We're excited to have you with us for the final program in the Digital Inclusion Series. This series was produced in partnership with the Camden Business Association, the Greater Atlantic City Chamber, the Greater Paterson Chamber of Commerce, and the Middlesex County Regional Chamber of Commerce. Over the past few weeks, this series has highlighted a range of topics relevant to small business owners, including legal concerns, accounting and finance, cybersecurity, and marketing and branding. Today's program will explore the critical and popular topic of AI and its applications for small business owners. But first, I'm going to bring on Mark Boccieri with Verizon for brief opening remarks.
Thank you, Maya, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the Verizon Small Business Digital Inclusion Training webinar for today's featured topic, Artificial Intelligence, or AI. My name is Mark Boccieri, Senior Manager of State Government Affairs for Verizon New Jersey, and I'm joined today by Jennifer Young, my counterpart in Southern New Jersey. So I want to welcome our returning and new participants. Today is the 8th and final webinar in our Small Business Digital Inclusion series, and this session will provide you with an overview of AI and its potential impact it can have on your business. As you may know, AI is rapidly growing in popularity and use applications. Verizon and other large businesses have been using AI for quite some time now to capture and predict information about customers to help assist in whatever the service or sales request they may have. It's used to save time in directing the customer to the right department or predict what may be the best solution for them. But we all know there are different applications for AI, so I am super excited to hear from Dr. Malaga, our guest speaker today. I also want to remind you that the online Verizon Small Business Digital Ready curriculum is available as a supplement in both English and Spanish. There are only 3 days left for you to enter and qualify to win a $10,000 grant. And to be eligible for this grant, you must take at least 2 of the online courses by June 28th. Registration is free online by going to https://digitalready.verizonwireless.com/. We'll place it in the chat. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. I know I will. And Verizon is happy to support this program, and it looks forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you again for joining today's session. Back to you, Maya.
Mara, you're on mute.
Thank you. I was on mute. Thank you, Mark, for those great opening remarks on behalf of Verizon. Now we're going to pass it to Ross A. Malaga, Chair and Professor of Information Management and Business Analytics, as well as the co-director for the Center for Business Analytics and Innovative Technologies at the Feliciano School of Business at Montclair State University. Before I pass it to Ross, I'm just going to make a quick note that at the end of his presentation, we will have brief time for audience Q&A. There is a Q&A box, which everyone should have access to, so attendees should drop questions there if they have any, and we'll address them at the end of the program. I am now going to pass it over to Ross.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you, Mark and Jennifer, for sponsoring this program. Let me go ahead and get my screen set up for you. Give me 1 second to do that. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen. Want to make sure?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Great. Okay, let me get started then. I'm going to leave this out of presentation mode, so I'm going to jump back and forth between the presentation and my web browser, because I want to actually show you some things that you can do even today to try to implement some of the AI tools that we're going to talk about. So let me start by talking about generative AI, because that's really what we're talking about here. It's not AI in general, because AI in general is a huge topic. This is very specific. Generative AI refers to these algorithms like ChatGPT that can generate new data, content, or predictions based on patterns learned from the past. right? So some examples include text generation, image creation, music composition, video and computer code. The key thing here is that unlike traditional AI tools that make predictions and analyze data, generative AI can create new content. That's the generative part. So how does it work? You have to think about generative AI like a student or a new employee who learns by example. It studies vast amounts of data, understand patterns and structures. For example, a chef learns by watching many recipes. Generative AI learns by vast amounts of data, such as text or images, right? And once it's trained on all this data, it sucks all this data in and it finds these patterns. It can create new content by mimicking the patterns it has already learned. And we'll see that as I get into the examples in just a few minutes. I just wanted to give you an idea of the different applications and use cases that are available. I'll leave this up for just a second. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, and you'll have a copy of these slides when we're done. But you can see that we can do things like text generation, and I'm going to do this in a few minutes with ChatGPT. Image creation. Again, we're going to do this in a few minutes with a model called DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E. Music composition. We won't get into music composition today. I've been playing around with it a little bit because I play in a band. It's not quite there yet in my mind, but it's getting close. You can use it to write computer code. Video creation. I'll show you an example of video creation in a little while. Language translation, game development, healthcare, education. The list goes on, right? We can keep going, but these are some of the main application areas and use cases for these generative AI tools. So what are some of the ways small businesses can use generative AI? I just listed a few, and this is not an exhaustive list by any means. For creativity and product development, content creation and marketing. This one is huge, as I'll hopefully show you in a little while. Data analysis and insights, HR and recruiting, and customer engagement. When we think about generative AI, we have to be able to give it the right prompt. The right prompt is what we're going to put into the tool so we can get what we want out of it. And the prompts, a lot of people have a problem with prompting because they treat it like Google. And you can't treat these tools like Google because they're not Google, right? They're not giving you back a list of websites. They're giving you something that is going to be created. So treat it like a new employee or an intern who does not understand anything. You need to provide context and clear instructions. One framework that you can try that is often very useful is this one called RTRI, and it stands for role, task, requirements, instructions. So role, act as a. So you can say act as a small business owner. You can be more specific, and I would be more specific. I wouldn't just say act as a small business owner. I would say act as the owner of X, whatever your business is. Be very specific, right? Or you can say act as the, best marketing consultant for small businesses in X industry. You can be very, very specific in the role that you're asking these tools to perform. Next, you're going to give it a task. What is it that you want it to do, right? Write an ad. Give me 10 ideas about how I can make my business better. Whatever the task is, you want to be very clear about that, right? And then you're going to give it the requirements. What specifically do you want it to do within that task, right? It needs to be in a certain format. It needs to include certain words, whatever it is, any requirements that go along with that task. And finally, the instructions. What should it do to act on the prompt? So for each ad, provide feedback on how to improve it. Right? One great prompt that I like to use at the beginning of when I use these tools is I say something like, for the rest of this conversation, take on the role of, or do something so that I don't have to remember to keep doing that. Usually it's a role. Usually I say for the rest of this conversation, take on the role of a small business owner who owns a whatever business. And that way I don't have to keep doing it for every time I prompt. It already knows. So we're going to get into it now, and you can follow along if you want to pull up, for example, ChatGPT in your browser, have it on the side as we go through this. What I've decided to do for this is take on the role of the owner of a vintage clothing store in a medium-sized city. I find myself in a lot of vintage clothing stores lately because my wife and my kids like them. I'm not so much a vintage clothing person, but I live with people who are. So the role that I'm going to ask it to take is as the owner of this vintage clothing store. And we're going to start out by asking it to give us some ideas for extending our business with enough detail to get started, right? So here is the role in blue. The task is provide me 3 ideas for extending my business. The instructions are, it has to have enough detail for me to get started. And the requirements are that 1 idea should focus on middle-aged women with a college education. 1 should be out of the box, and the 3rd should focus on synergies with other businesses in the area. So let's take a look now at what that might mean if I put it into ChatGPT. So hopefully you can see my browser. Whoops, if I pull it up again. Hopefully you can see my browser. And I've already put this in here just in case ChatGPT decides not to cooperate today. Sometimes it gets overloaded, right? And I'm using the ChatGPT 4.0 model, and that O is the letter O, not 0. This is the paid version, but you can certainly try this on the free version, which is ChatGPT 3.5. I don't think you'll have a huge difference. There may be some subtle differences in the output that you'll get. So you can see I started out with my until I say otherwise. Assume the role of the owner of a vintage clothing store in a medium-sized city. And ChatGPT says, yeah, I got it. How can I assist you today as the owner of a vintage clothing store? Give me these 3 ideas. So 1 idea is this targeted middle-aged women with a college education. The idea is vintage styling workshops and a personal shopping service, right? And it gives me a description of this and how should I get started. I can do some market research. I can have workshops, start offering personal shopping, collaborate with local hair and makeup artists to offer a complete vintage makeover, right? How to promote it on social media and customer loyalty program. Right, so that's the first idea, and you can say, well, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not a good idea. But the goal here is to get you started thinking about something new. And if you don't like these ideas, I'll show you what you can do in just a minute. So the second idea was the out of the box one. The one you have on your slides is probably a little bit different because when I did it to create the slide deck, it gave me a different out of the box idea.
Excuse me,
that
Ross?
one, yeah.
Ross, we can't see your browser.
You cannot see my browser. Oh, okay. I will make it more clear then. Let's pull up the browser. Thought I had it, but I might be didn't. Can you see it now?
Yes, now we can see it. Yep.
Great. Okay. Sorry about that. So again, I'm in ChatGPT. You can just go to chatgpt.com. I'm using the 4.0, the letter O model. If you go in, the free one is 3.5, right? And so my prompt was till I say otherwise, and then I put in, give me the 3 ideas prompt. And this is the first one it came up with, which was this makeover idea. The second one is the out of the box idea. The other day when I did this to create the slide deck, the out of the box idea was different. It gave me a subscription service. Today, it gave me vintage clothing rental for themed events and photo shoots. So a little bit different. Curated collection of high quality pieces for themed occasions, right? A pricing model it's basically a rental model with a security deposit and late fees. Have to think about cleaning and maintenance and things of that nature. And then the third one was collaborative pop-up shops and events. How can I work with some of the other businesses in the area, identify them? So coffee shops, bookstores, artisan boutiques, beauty salons, create vintage and vinyl, partnering with a record store, sip and shop, books and looks. You get the idea. And again, these were 3 ideas, but if you don't like any of these ideas, one of the things that you can do is, and I've done this a bunch of times already, so it's at the end of the rope, but you can have it redo it. You can say, give me 3 different ideas, right? So when I do that, it's now the out of the box idea is virtual reality shopping, right? So it's a whole different thing. Again, it gave me curated fashion. It gave me VR, and it gave me a different synergistic thing, right? So if you don't like it, you could just say, give me 3 more. Or you can reprompt it to say, I don't like that idea. Can you tweak it a little bit? So it's a conversation that you should be having with these models, right? It's not like Google. You're going to have a conversation where you keep going back and forth. All right. So let me go back to what I was working on. Hopefully, whoops, it's going to scroll to the end because I did something there, but I'll show you what I did. Just bear with me. So this is where we were. And now what I wanted to do is, I'm saying for the second idea, and you don't have to specify what that is because the model already knows what the second idea is. Generate content from my website that explains the concept, provide a table for suggested pricing that includes a free trial. So again, think about how much time you would need to create the website content for a brand new concept that you've just come up with, right? Here's your website content, and you might not love it the way it is, but it'll get you started. And now you can edit this. As a small business owner, one of the most valuable assets you have is time. And think about how much time this can save you, right? Because now it's basically done it mostly for you. And if you wanted to expand on something, you can say, can you give me 5 bullet points on why I choose our rental service instead of 3? You can, break these down. You can tweak them yourself. Maybe you don't like the suggested pricing, but now you've got a table that you can work with, and you can tweak it, right? So that's one of the main things that these tools will do for you. They will save you a tremendous amount of time, and also hopefully a tremendous amount of money, because you now don't have to go hire someone to write this for you. Okay. The next thing I've asked it to do is say, okay, great, I like this idea. Give me a Google ad campaign, right? Again, if you went out and did this yourself, it could take you a few hours. If you went out and hired someone, it'll cost you some money to have a professional do this for you, right? So I basically, and I gave it details, right? I want to have at least 2 ad groups. If you don't know what these are, don't worry about it, but I understand that you've done some things in digital marketing in the last couple of weeks. But basically, with Google Ads, I'm saying I want 2 ad groups with 8 or 10 keywords and 2 ads per ad group. So it's giving me how to set it up. It's telling me what the daily budget should be. It's telling me, I didn't even ask it for any of this, right? I didn't say, give me a daily budget, give me the bidding strategy. It figured this out based on the context, right? And I said, here's the first ads that I want to run. Here are the keywords: vintage clothing rental, rent vintage dresses, etc. Great Gatsby dress rental, 1950s, 1920s, and this is the ad, right? It has like rent vintage clothing for events or unique styles for themed parties, and this would be the description. This is the type of ad that would come up if you type one of these words into Google. And then I said, give me another ad. So again, gave me another ad. And here's another group of keywords. Again, you would put these into Google and you might see these ads. And not only that, it gave me the implementation steps, exactly what I need to do to make this work. Set up a new campaign, create 2 ad groups, add the keywords, etc. I didn't ask it for any of this. So it did it based on context. So think about how much time and money something like this could save you, right? asking it to help you with generating these type of ads. So let me pause here for a second. I'm going to go and just switch back to the slide deck because I've jumped around. I think I've jumped ahead of my slides a little bit. So I want to get back onto the slide deck here and show you where we are. So let me scroll down. We've done this. We've asked it for ideas. And now we've generated our website content. We've generated our Google ads, right? So these are the prompts we used for doing that. So the next thing we want to do is use this to generate some images. And here I didn't even spell it right. Okay. With the paid plan in ChatGPT, you can access what's called DALL-E. This is just the name of a model that does image generation. A lot of people feel that a different service called Midjourney is better, but again, it costs more. So you'll have to decide for yourself which one would be the most appropriate. But let's try out DALL-E to see if we can get some images generated to put on our Instagram. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask it to generate 4 images for it's not the subscription service now, it's just the service that I can use on Instagram. And at least one image should be photorealistic and one should be in the style of Andy Warhol. So that's what I'm going to ask it to do. And you can have it in any style you want. You can say, make it surreal. You can say, you know, whatever your favorite artist is, you can have it in that style. Or can you? We'll see in a minute. So here it's generating, yeah.
Okay, never. I was going to say we couldn't see your screen, but we can see it.
Yeah, I'm jumping back now. I might have to redo it because it looks like the images, I've lost the images somehow. So let me go back and I may have to reprompt it to do this. Let's see if I can get it to reprompt. I don't think I can. No, why didn't it give me the image? All right. Didn't like that. So the images didn't come in. Sorry about that. I'll see if we can get it to work in a minute. The big thing here is it basically says it can't do the Andy Warhol image because there's copyright restrictions on that, right? So let me see if I can get it to reprompt. It may not like it. Generate 4 images for the service in a style. Let's see if it'll do it for us. Yeah, and here we go. So it's going to do this. It's going to take a few minutes to generate and see what it comes. We'll see what comes out of that. And hopefully these will be cool images. So here we go, vintage style, right? And if you don't like these images, you don't like the style, you can say, make them realistic. Give me a realistic image of a vintage clothing store, right? Photo realistic style. I'm gonna let that churn for a few seconds, and it'll give us our image. These are the vintage ones, right? And you might not like these. You might say, oh, you know, you can ask it to tweak it a little bit. You can ask it, you know, to do other things with it. This is a photorealistic image of a vintage clothing store. So again, this is using the DALL-E model. A lot of people do like Midjourney more for images, but this one is included if you want to pay the $20 a month to subscribe to ChatGPT. And again, you know, think about how much time and money this could save you by, you know, not having to do photographs yourselves or hiring a photographer to do this or hiring an artist to do this. Like, this is not really something that a photographer, this is an artist, this is an artist. So, how much would you have to pay somebody to generate this for you? And how much time would this save you? Okay, so let me come back up over here and let me pause right here, because we're going to get into the next thing I want to talk about. I'm going to again jump around and stop sharing and resharing the slide deck because I want to talk about video. There are multiple sites that can generate video for you, but one that I thought was particularly impressive when I tried it out is videogen.io. And I'm going to show you that now, but there's a ton of these out there. So if videogen.io doesn't work for you or you don't like it, you can just Google video generation or something like that, because there's a lot of these out there now. So this is videogen.io. I did a video the other day, but let's try it together. And I'm just going to generate a video based on an AI prompt. So describe what the video should be about, and it should be about a vintage clothing store. This is a not very good prompt. We could give it a better prompt, but let's just see what happens when we do that. This is going to take a few minutes. So while that's going, I might show you. So you could give us a script, right, for this, and we can tweak it. If you don't like the script, tweak it, and then you can say generate. Oh, I probably went through my one video that I can get, but this was what it generated the other day. Let's see if I can get it to go again. Oh no, I have to upgrade. Sorry about that. I thought I could do it, but I can't because it won't let me. But maybe it'll play it for us. Nope, it won't even play it for us. Give it a try. I apologize. I don't have the upgraded plan. I thought I could. It would at least allow me to show you the video that I did the other day, but apparently not. But this was really impressive. Give it a try. You get like one free video, and it was very, very interesting. Within about a minute, it gave me a minute and a half video that was really very good. You can change the everything about the video. You can change the voice on the video. You can change the style of the video. You can put music on it. Again, this is not the only one out there. There's a whole bunch of them, but this one I thought was very, very interesting. And this would be $30 a month. You can do it in 28 different languages. So again, if you're targeting a market that is not your native language, this could be really, really powerful because it'll allow you to create that video and target somebody in a completely different language. And the language is usually pretty good. The language parts of it are usually pretty good. So I apologize. I thought it would let me do it, but it didn't. But give it a try. I like it. It's videogen.io. You'll get one free video before you have to upgrade. Okay. Some other things we can do, going back to ChatGPT, we talked about how we can use it to come up with some new ideas. We talked about how we can use it for marketing content, content for your website, content for your ads, generate images for Instagram or for your website, for example. You can also use it for things like HR, generating things like job ads and HR policies, among other things. So let me again share ChatGPT. So here I asked it to generate a help wanted ad for an entry-level employee for my business. And again, it still knows what your business is, because remember, all the way at the top, all the way up here, I said, until I say otherwise, you're assuming the role of the vintage clothing store owner. So again, it knows, it has that context throughout this entire conversation. Later on, if you wanted to change the context, you would say, okay, here's a new context. So this is the help wanted ad that it did. And again, how much time would this save you for not having to start from scratch. You probably will want to adjust this. The responsibilities are probably going to be a little bit different for your particular case. The qualifications might be different, and obviously some of the benefits will be different, but now you just have to go in and edit this. You don't have to start from a blank piece of paper, and this should save you a significant amount of time. I also asked it to generate 5 questions I should ask candidates for this job and outline some good responses and provide it in a table. Again, I'm giving it specific instructions on how I want the output. You could say, give it to me in bullet points, whatever it is you want to do. And here are some of those questions. Why are you interested in working here? Right? How would you handle a customer? How do you stay organized? These are, the type of questions I think you would probably ask as this small business owner. And here are some, good responses so that you have in mind what a good response is for these questions as you go into it. Of course, your candidate should do the same thing if they're interviewing for the job. And we always tell our students that ChatGPT is a great resource before you go interview for a job. Put in the job description and say, give me a bunch of questions that you anticipate I will get on this job and what some good answers might be. So it works both ways. And here I've asked it to generate an employee punctuality and attendance policy. And again, you would tweak this based on, your specific ideas of what the policy should say, but, it's basically got everything you need in here, and you just need to go in and, maybe your grace period is 10 minutes instead of 5 or 0 or whatever you want your grace period to be. You could put in your specific policies, but now you have something that is will get you started at least. So again, let me jump out of here. I'm going very quickly. I think I'm going very quickly because I want to make sure we get everything in. But one more thing I want to show you before we get to RPA, because that's the second part of this, which is that ChatGPT can really do a great job in analyzing data for you. So here, I brought in, let's see if it'll do it. I brought in data from an Excel file, and this data just has data from coffee shop sales for 3 coffee shops in the New York area. This is just public data that I downloaded from a website, but it's the type of data that a small business owner would probably have. And I just really, all I did was upload it from Excel. If you have the paid version of ChatGPT, you can do that. Just hit the paperclip and upload from the computer, or you can upload from Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. And I just brought the Excel file in and it said, describe the data. So this is the data that's in there. There's a transaction ID, date, time, quantity, store location, unit price, product category, etc. And I can now ask it information. I can ask it to analyze that data for me. Like, what's the most popular product, right? And it knows right away that this Earl Grey is the most popular product. I've sold, 4,708 units. Which store sells most of that product, and which is the least? And it gives me the results. What hours of the day? What hour of the day has the most sales? 10 a.m. What product category has the most and least sales? Right. Provide a bullet list of all the products that contain chocolate. How many store locations are there? There's 3. I asked it for a line chart that shows total sales by time for each location. I should have said by date. I got this mess and I then fixed it. I realized that was the mess and I showed it, and then I got a nice line chart here, right? So it can do visualization for you. ChatGPT is great for generating new content, but you can also use it to help you analyze data that you might already have. Again, if it's in something like an Excel format, or if you can export it from your point of sale system or your online store, into Excel, you can easily just bring it into something like ChatGPT and just ask it the questions that you have about your data, and you don't need to go in and perform and create new functions in Excel or do any of that stuff. ChatGPT will do the work for you. So another really great idea of how this can be used. So let me switch gears a little bit here, and I'm not going to have as much to show you here under this other topic called robotic process automation, or RPA, but it's something that can save you a tremendous amount of time, but you have to spend a little bit of time up front to make sure it's working correctly. And what RPA is, it's software robots. So people get thrown off by this. They see robotic and they think robots like you would see on a car assembly line. I've even had students do whole presentations on this and just get it completely wrong because the robotic part threw them off, and they did a whole presentation on robots. These are software robots. So just think about them as little pieces of software that perform routine or repetitive tasks that are usually done by humans, right? So instead of hardware robot that does the routine and repetitive tasks, this is software that does this. So these can handle tasks like entering data into spreadsheets, processing transactions, responding to simple customer service inquiries, right? Think about it as like a virtual assistant that can work quickly and accurately without taking breaks, allowing you to focus on the more complex and creative work. So an example might be a company receives hundreds of emails every day. Instead of having a person read through each email and sort them into different folders, an RPA bot can do this automatically. And how it does this is it basically looks at how a human would do this. So a human is doing this, and the bot is kind of watching them on the screen and what they're doing, how are they sorting things, and it's learning how things get sorted. And then it's able to take over that task. So think about tasks that you might do every day that are simple, repetitive tasks, but just take you time. That's where RPA can help you by alleviating the need for you to do those tasks. Some examples of tools that you might want to explore. One is from Microsoft. If you have a Microsoft subscription, you might have this tool already included in that subscription, and it's called Microsoft Power Automate. This one you'll have to set up. Some of these you'll have to set up yourself because they're not really robots that are watching you, but I'll show you that in a minute. And the website for this is make.powerautomate.com. There's some simple examples on here, and again, I'll show you this in a minute. Emailing calendar events. So basically, every Monday morning, send me an email with everything I have on my calendar for the week. Finding a meeting time with a bunch of different people. Auto approving shifts for the week. Sending personalized emails from an Excel file. So let me shift over to Power Automate, so I can just give you an idea of how that looks and some of the things you might be able to do in that. And this is Power Automate. Again, it's at makepowerautomate.com. If you already have this is a Microsoft product. If you already have a Microsoft subscription, for example, Office or 365 or something like that, it may be included in there. I'm not sure. It depends on the level of your subscription. But in here, you can see these are some of the things that you can do to automate pretty easily, right? Notify an email when a new file is uploaded to OneDrive, right? Send me my daily reminders from Outlook. Save any Gmail attachment to a Dropbox folder, right? These are simple ones. You can have much more complex ones So let's go look at some of the top picks, right? And some of these are very integrated, obviously, because this is Microsoft. A lot of these are integrated a lot with Microsoft products, but you can use these across products as well, right? You know, having a lot to do with Teams. If you use Teams, there's a lot of Teams ones in here. I found some interesting ones in remote work, right? Get daily reminders in your email. Email me. This is the email me with a list of my upcoming calendar events. Okay. Scheduling replies to emails. You know, so you can easily have something where, you know, if you're, for example, I can give you an example of the type of task that I had in one of my businesses, which was an e-commerce business. It was drop shipping. So if you placed an order, I had to now take that order and send it to my drop shipper in a certain format, right? And I had to do that for every single order. So now what I could do is set up an RPA that says, go in at the end of the day, batch up all the orders, put them in an Excel file, and email them to my drop shipper. I don't have to do that anymore. That gets done automatically. I just say what time of the day that should run, and it runs automatically. So that's the kind of thing you can do with RPA. It may take some work up front to make sure that it's doing what you want and to get it right. It may be something that you can do yourself if it's very simple, but if it's a more complex task, you might need somebody to help you with that. So just keep that in mind. It may be if you want to do some kind of complex task, it may require somebody to help you get that set up. But think about the time savings, and then you can think about the cost and decide whether it's worth it. Another very popular RPA company is UiPath.com. Basically, theirs is, you're going to have to put a little bit more work into it. Theirs is not as simple as Power Automate, but some of the things you can do there, again, track sales data in a spreadsheet and email it to a list. And you can also create your own, like you can use natural language processing, but it requires some tweaking. I played around with this and it didn't quite do it. I had to tweak some things. So again, one of the things that you'll want to do if you go down the road of using RPA is to make sure that the automations are working correctly before you completely rely on it, right? Because again, especially if it's an important task, it's just going through and finding my calendar events and emailing them to me, you might not care that much. But if it's something that you're going to rely on, for example, making sure that orders get to my drop shipper, I'm definitely going to want to make sure that that's working correctly before I 100% rely on it. Let me talk just a few minutes about the future and where all these things are headed. And the future is coming very quickly. So one of the things I think we're seeing now is the combination of Gen AI and RPA. And again, UiPath is trying this out where you can use natural language processing, which is basically just using, you know, a text description for what you want in an RPA and getting a pretty good result out of that. So we're going to see more combination of these two concepts. A big concept that a lot of people are talking about now in the realm of Gen AI, generative AI, is something called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And the folks who came up with this said if we thought it was going to be if we knew it was going to be as popular as it became, we would have come up with a better name for it. But quite simply, this allows generative AI to use external sources. So if you go into ChatGPT right now, it's only trained on data up until about 2 years ago. So it doesn't know anything more recent than that. And it only is trained on public data that's available on the web. So retrieval augmented generation will allow you to, for example, allow something like ChatGPT to go in and basically use data that you might have, right? Or more recent data. So just think about it like that. It's basically giving it more data. Usually it's something very specific. In a small business, you might not have enough to really leverage RAG, but I'm sure bigger companies like Verizon are going to be doing that if they're not already. You're going to hear a lot more about agents. Agents break up complex tasks. A good example of this would be asking ChatGPT to plan my vacation to Italy that I'm working on for next year. And it basically could break up this task and say, okay, you're going to need a flight. So I'm going to go out and find you the flight. I'm going to go out and find you the hotels, and it's going to send a different agent to go and do all these different things. So it says one agent to go find me flights, sends another agent to go research on TripAdvisor the best hotels, goes out to somewhere else, Yelp maybe, to find the best restaurants, right? And brings that back and gives me my itinerary. So again, agents just break up complex tasks, and you've got specific agents that go and do these different things. And then we're going to see much more, more and better models, more things having to do with vision and sound. The new ChatGPT 4.0 has really done some really, really cool things with vision. Played around with this just the other day. We were sitting in a restaurant, my son and I, and it's one of those restaurants that it's got like a million things on the walls, and we just took a picture of it and said, describe it to us. And it described it perfectly. Casual restaurant, people are sitting and eating. On the walls, there's a lot of these little things, and I see this, that, this, and the other thing. There was about 5 or 6 things that it was actually able to describe that were on the wall. And there were 1 or 2 things we said, oh, we didn't even notice that. So you're going to see more and better models in the near future, and just be aware of those. And with that, I thank you, and I guess we'll open the floor for Q&A.
I was muted again. Thank you, Ross. That was an amazing presentation. That was super thorough, super detailed. It gave a really good overview of what AI is, what RPA is, what some of the options are for using it, how we actually use it. I actually wasn't aware of the whole the piece of the prompt where you say act as this person. So I think that's going to be definitely helpful for me as I utilize AI on this side a little bit more. I do want to just let the audience know that we have a few minutes if there are any questions. I don't currently see any in the chat, but we do have a few minutes to answer questions if anyone has any. Oh, okay, we just got one. Oh, no, this is a comment. Okay, yes, thank you, Debbie. Oh, it is a question. Okay, when regenerating imagery or retrieving content for content marketing, how do you ensure you are not violating any copyright laws? Okay, that is a great question.
That is a great question. And it's an open question. And I don't think we have the answer to it yet, because again, these models were trained on vast amounts of data, and a lot of it was copyrighted. And so the question is, when you generate something totally new based on that, what is the, how should we think about that from a legal standpoint? And the courts have not adjudicated this yet. I'm sure that there are going to be cases that are going to go all the way to the Supreme Court in the near future, in the next couple of years. So we don't know yet, and that's the issue. I think, again, for the most part, the models are starting to incorporate some of these copyright protections. So, for example, when I asked it to generate an image in the style of Andy Warhol, it said, nope, not going to do that. Right? If I asked it to generate in the style of Monet, it would do that, because we're not worried about that. Monet has been dead for I don't know how many years, so we're not going to, it would go ahead and do that for me. So I think the models are starting to really take this into consideration, and will stop you from doing anything that is explicitly violating copyright. I'm not a lawyer though, so you might want to check with an attorney on all that.
No, that's great. I think it is helpful to know just that the programs are starting to update in such a way to at least be mindful of potential copyrights. And so it sounds like some of what you're explaining is that with whatever updates are happening, maybe they're kind of taking into consideration this is very recent versus, and these are things that are not quite in the public domain yet versus these are things that are a little
Yeah.
older and they're in public domain. So you can go ahead and use them and there's no problem with that.
Right. And again, different models might have different policies. If I asked Midjourney to do the same thing, I don't know. I don't have a Midjourney subscription, but if I asked Midjourney to generate, an image in the style of Andy Warhol, it might be fine with that. I don't know.
Got it. Okay, that's definitely a helpful consideration. I do not see any additional questions in the chat. Oh, nope, we got one more. Okay. Okay, this is also from Debbie. When ChatGPT retrieves data, is it rewording it so that it is not plagiarized? Okay, that's another great question.
Yes. Again, it's not giving you something that is verbatim. It's generating something new based on the patterns that already exist. So could it be plagiarizing something? Yes. It's not doing it deliberately. It's just, based on the patterns that already exist, it's coming up with something that it thinks is new. It could be that it's not, just by chance, but most of the time it is something that is new. If you're really worried about that, you can go and check and take the output of whatever it gives you and try to Google it and see if it comes up verbatim. Or if you're worried about it, there's plagiarism checkers you can run these things through. And this has caused all sorts of problems at universities, by the way, because now we cannot find plagiarism anymore. It used to be when you plagiarized, it was pretty easy for us to find that because you were copying a whole paragraph from something into your paper. Now we can't, even if we think you plagiarized it, we can't prove it.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to check the chat box one more time. So we'll do a last call for questions, and then Mark and I will wrap up the session. And to answer a couple of people that inquired earlier, we are sharing the recording of the presentation, as well as the PDF of the actual slide deck. Everyone will get a follow-up email that includes that information, as well as a post-event survey that we are also requesting that everyone take, very quick, 2 minutes or less to fill out. So I don't see any additional questions. Oh, yep.
If anybody on here needs help with any of this stuff, feel free to reach out to me at Montclair. Our center is geared towards helping small businesses, and we have students who can help you with this. And they work cheap.
Awesome. So we will also share Ross's contact information in the follow-up email. So we want to thank Ross for joining us. Again, this was a great presentation. And we also want to thank Mark and Verizon for bringing NRBP to the table to be part of the program series and to produce a couple of programs in it. And I will pass it to Mark to close us out.
Well, again, Maya, thank you for putting this presentation together. And Dr. Malaga, really wonderful, wonderful presentation. I'm sure there are a lot of questions that are flying around and people will probably think of them after this call and say, oh, I should have asked that question. But I can tell you that, I know there's a lot of skepticism with some of what's happening with the ChatGPTs in the world. I read a recent article in New Jersey Magazine. Actually, it's not that recent. It was about a year ago about what teachers need to look out for when they're getting their reports back from the students and things of that nature. So it's kind of interesting. But again, as it relates to what we're talking about in business, the time savings that you displayed just in terms of providing pictures and short little video vignettes and things of that nature that can be added to your website and help create content for you to advertise your business and make it that much better. The time savings in that alone is really the benefit to what happens as opposed to having to go out and build it on your own. it's there and the machine generates it within seconds for you, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. So again, I can't thank our partners that helped us throughout this webinar series enough for what they've done in terms of gathering the information, providing the guest speakers, and setting up this series to make it as successful as it really was. So I'm going to just ask Jennifer. Jennifer, is there anything you wanted to add before we close this out? Again, a huge thanks to not only Maya and NRBP, but the rest of the partners that we work with throughout this series.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Ross and Maya, for today's session. It was incredibly informative, and I hope that everyone attended was able to just get some great information. Again, thank you to all of our partners, as Marcus said, across the state, all of the chambers that participated in this series. We look forward to the feedback. We thank you for the partnership, and I hope that everyone has an amazing summer, and we look forward to restarting this in the fall. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Maya, thanks again.
It's that mute again. Thank you. So we'll send everyone a follow-up email. You'll have the materials, you'll have Ross's information, and we look forward to seeing everyone in the fall for phase 2 of this program series. Have a great day.
Thank you.